Okay, let's talk about something we all use. Literally every single day, but probably never ever think about. I'm talking about toilet paper. Or, more specifically, the fascinating and sometimes kind of weird world before toilet paper.
So what did people do? It seems like a simple question, right? But the answer, wow. It tells you so much about human creativity, about culture. For thousands of years, just staying clean was a huge deal. And the ways people solved that problem, they were all over the map.
I mean, seriously, just try to picture it. No convenient, fluffy rolls, no soft sheets. Before the 1800s, staying clean was basically the ultimate test of resourcefulness. You had to use whatever was around you. Moss on the ground? Yep. Water from a nearby stream? You bet. So let's kick things off way back in the ancient world. And trust me, some of these early solutions are gonna blow your mind. The big surprise? Hygiene wasn't always a private affair. Nope, a lot of the time it was actually a public and shared experience.
So, take a look at this. In dry places like ancient Mesopotamia, water was super precious. So what did they have a ton of? Broken pottery. They'd smooth out the edges of these shards, called pessoi, and use them as scrapers. Yeah, sounds a little rough, doesn't it? But hey, it was a pretty practical fix for a problem everyone had. All right, get ready for maybe the most infamous bathroom tool in all of history, the Roman tersorium. And yes, you're seeing that right. It's a sea sponge on a stick. And the kicker? It was communal. I know, the ick factor is off the charts. But hold on, before we totally freak out, let's actually see how this thing works. Okay, so the secret was really in the system they had set up. In those big public Roman latrines, everyone shared the tool, but they also cleaned it. See, they would dip it in a channel of constantly running water, or even better, a trough of salt water or vinegar. And that's actually pretty clever, right? Vinegar is a natural antiseptic, so they were basically disinfecting the sponge after each use. Now, if you were rich, of course, you didn't have to deal with this. You'd be at home using soft wool or maybe even rose petals. Must be nice.
But the Romans were just one piece of the puzzle. Let's do a quick lightning round, a trip around the globe to see all the different creative ways people handled this, using everything from leaves to, well, catalogs. And you can see here, there were two totally different philosophies at play. Over in much of Asia, especially within Hindu and Islamic traditions, it was all about water. Water meant purity. The method of using your left hand and a special vessel of water is still seen today as the absolute cleanest way to do things. Meanwhile, in medieval Europe, the philosophy was more whatever's handy. People literally used what was on the ground: moss, grass, hay, ferns, you name it.
And get this, here's a little piece of trivia that might actually come from this topic. You've heard the phrase, "doesn't know his ass from his elbow," right? Well, one theory is that it comes from medieval shepherds who had plenty of soft sheep's wool on hand for cleaning and, had to be able to tell the difference. Kind of funny when you think about it.
And this idea of using local stuff was just universal. In Mesoamerica, you had soft biodegradable corn husks or avocado leaves. Perfect. In the Inca Empire, your social status made all the difference. Elites used soft alpaca wool, while common folks might use a smooth riverstone or a maize cob. And across sub-Saharan Africa, it was often a mix of grass, leaves, and sticks, usually with some water from a stream. Now, let's jump a little closer to our own time here in America. Before mail-order catalogs were a thing, what was the go-to tool in the outhouse? The humble corn cob. I mean, think about it. It was absorbent, there were tons of them, and it worked. It's a perfect example of how farm life shaped every single part of your day. Okay, so we've had sponges, stones, and corn cobs. When does paper finally show up? Well, it was way slower than you'd probably guess. It was less of a sudden invention and more of a slow burn revolution that took centuries to catch on for everybody. Believe it or not, the first recorded use of paper for hygiene was way back in 6th century China. But, and this is a big but, it was not for the average person. For more than 1,000 years, this was a luxury item, something only for the emperor and the super wealthy aristocrats. So what was the big game changer in the West? It wasn't actually something you bought for the bathroom. It was something that showed up in your mailbox, the Sears Roebuck catalog. Its pages were pretty soft, they were absorbent, and best of all, they were free. It became the unofficial toilet paper for a huge part of America. People would just hang it on a nail in the outhouse and tear out pages when they needed them. So all these people using catalogs and newspapers made one thing crystal clear. There was a massive untapped market here. And that brings us to the final part of our story, how we went from rags and catalogs to rolls, and how a whole new industry was born. This timeline really shows you just how long this took. You've got the first mention in China in 589. Then, it takes nearly 1,300 years before a guy named Joseph Gady tries to sell the first commercial medicated paper in the US. And even then, it's not until 1890 that the Scott Paper Company finally gives us the perforated roll that we all recognize today. What a journey! So the next time you reach for a roll of toilet paper, just take a second to think about it. That simple, everyday object holds millennia of human ingenuity. It's the end result of a long, long story that includes everything from stones and sponges to catalogs and corncobs. And that kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? Our hygiene tools obviously reflect our technology and our culture. So what will people 200 years from now think about ours? Are they going to look at our simple rolls of paper and think they're totally primitive? Or will they see it as, the height of elegant simplicity? It's a pretty wild thought. Thanks for coming along for the ride.